Okay, so this is a compilation of some questions that some 5th graders in a sex ed class wrote down and put into the question box that their teachers set up for them. I'm just gonna read some of them out loud because they are both frightening and extremely entertaining. Is it danger to have a big breast and the other small? Good question, the answer is no. What's pussy? Where do the boys have to put their peanuts when they do sex? Why do the boys' peanuts get up? Sex is sucking penis. This one is written in all caps. Sex is sucking penis. Why do girls hate this? Period. How are you pregnant? Why is your pubic hair curly? Can a dog have sex with a human girl? Why is sex important? If a girl has her period and she has sex, what happens to her? What happens if you see a condom? Why do boys get more power to do the sex? What if the kid is carrying a car? What happens? Is sex the most dangerous thing in life? That's my favorite one. I would like to envision a world in the future where there is a mandatory class in every grade level that just teaches people how to be people. And I don't think we should call it sex ed. In 2016, after years of frustration with the public school system, I gave up my teaching position to explore the ways that our nation's sex education is lacking. Heavy on my mind was a question about how a lack of comprehensive sex education, combined with full access to information online, was shaping our nation's youth. Everyone's afraid of the word sex. Take it out of the equation and call it human relations and start it in kindergarten. Because as a teacher, I saw firsthand how there is literally absolutely no education for people on how to be people and what they can and can't do with all of their raging feelings and anxiety and fear and insecurity and hormones. All of that stuff, how we relate to each other later on becomes sexuality. Definitely doesn't start as sexuality. Why would you not want your children or our nation's children to be more informed about what to do and what not to do with their bodies? Because the feelings are natural and they're going to happen whether we educate them or not. Teachers and parents are no longer the primary source of information as it goes right now. Kids are just using the internet to find out about their curiosity about sex. Interestingly enough, I started this project a year before the Me Too movement started to unfold. Every single story that I saw break during the Me Too movement struck me as the byproduct of lack of education. And I think the people that are afraid of more education are just also victims of being undereducated themselves. The more information from educated professionals, the better. Sex ed, or as I'm now going to refer to it from here on out, human relations, is not going to create an interest inside of a person that doesn't already exist. Sex right now, the topic of sex is so taboo and treated with such shame and fear that it becomes a fear-based, vitriolic, ugly topic. So when I started working on this project a couple years ago, I set Google alerts for sex ed laws in America and sex education and started compiling some articles that were pertinent to the topic and just sort of reading about how people felt across the nation, other teachers, parents, students. This conversation is happening everywhere. There are a lot of pushes toward better sex ed. There are a lot of pushbacks, specifically by our current administration who wants to go back to abstinence only, but it's definitely a hot topic right now. Sex education allows campus betterment. Studies show, are we lying in sex ed class? I have found the answer to that question to be yes. Believe it or not, only 24 states make sex ed mandatory, and only 13 of those states require that their sex ed be medically accurate. Beyond that, When researching whether or not the current curriculum includes LGBTQ+ issues, I found very disappointing results. One of the articles that I came across really stood out to me because it was written by a French adult film star. Her name's Nikita Bellucci. She says she's fed up with educating kids online and she fumes over families lacking sex ed. And she basically goes on to say that because there's such a lack of appropriate and comprehensive information, she's been thrust into the role of pseudo-educator. And she gets messages from young people all the time asking her questions like, I want to do this, how do I go about it? Or this is happening to my body, can you give me information about that? Because she's not afraid to talk about sex, and people in the school system who are supposed to educate are afraid. There is a profound lack of information across the nation. Young people are educating themselves about sex by Googling. And since porn comes up when you Google sex questions, adult film stars are becoming educators, whether they choose to or not. So, I reached out to 6 adult film stars directly about the types of internet messages they receive from undereducated young people. We also talked about what their own sex education was like and about what they think about the state of sex ed in America right now.
A lot of people reach out to me for information because I work in the sex industry. I've had people that I've gone to school with, I've had fans, I've had a lot of different people just ask me for information. Sometimes I get things that are a little bit more personal and have to do with their mental state and their emotional state and different things about their sexuality, whereas other times I have people coming and asking me for advice on sex, like what positions are best, what type of lube to use, how to have anal sex safely, you know, just different things. I get asked a lot. I actually am very surprised by some of the questions that I get. I've had people questioning their sexuality. Like, I have a friend who has a girlfriend, and he's also interested in males, but he was asking me, he was like, does this make me gay?
Right.
And I'm like, no, I mean, if you like both, that makes you bi. That doesn't make you gay. And for me, I feel like that's a little bit like cut and dry. It's pretty out there, it's very straightforward, but a lot of people don't understand that because those things don't get discussed.
People have reached out to me via DM or email, asking me personal questions about, well, what do you think about this? And it, like, sexual preference thing. And at first I'm looking at this question from this grown-ass man, and I'm like, who the fuck cares what I think about pegging? Why are you asking me this? And then I realize, beyond not being educated, not everybody is as curious or has access to the things that I did. And maybe I'm someone that they feel comfortable with just even asking. So I kind of took it back to that, and okay, I can answer some of these questions. Honestly, I remember at the age of 5 stumbling across my dad's Playboys in his office, and I was like enthralled. I was fascinated. I couldn't stop going into that room and looking at those women. I connected with them. Like, I wanted to see them, I wanted to be them, I kept wanting to be around them. I couldn't get enough of them.
I actually learned about sex at an extremely young age by mistake. So one day my dad was napping and I knew how to work the VHS player and I couldn't read yet. I accidentally put a porno in because he didn't put it away. He had a movie just sitting on top, no box or anything. I thought it was one of my Disney movies. Yeah.
It wasn't for a while till because we didn't have internet in my house. This is still before, you know, all you kids, you have internet on your phones. We didn't have that. So this is before I could go and fucking fact check this shit. And I remember like thinking of that for a long time until I saw a porno, and then I got more information from what at least a female body looked like from porn.
It was probably about age 12. Curiosity and desire and sort of seeking like a reciprocal attraction with my friend who lived across the street. And so she and I, like, we didn't talk about it like a sex thing. It was just a game that we were playing, but it was totally like we both like knew. And so we kind of messed around a little bit.
Well, I suppose it would start at, you know, probably the like kind of cliche age, like sexual awakening, probably around like 10, or, you know, first you just feel the butterflies in your tummy. So I guess maybe that was a little bit younger, maybe 8 or 9. But then at 11, you know, you start figuring out what to do with those feelings.
I remember the class in 5th grade. I remember the class in 5th grade because none of us were taking it seriously. We were all like, we're split between boys and girls, so the boys group and then the girls group. And like everybody was just laughing and giggling and telling jokes when the diagram came on with the like floppy dick cut in half, and we were just like, and like none of us were taking it seriously. We were just like, oh, this is so fun. Let's fuck around and play in the hallways and go to the bathroom and share what we're learning, not really. And it was just silly. There were only biological health classes after that. Never did it ever go back to sexuality.
Even in high school, I did health class. And I remember what I learned from that was I saw a video of a woman giving birth. And also, you have sex with unprotected, you'll get AIDS and die.
Porn is a fantasy for adults. We don't look at any other form of fantasy media, whether it's action movies or horror movies or whatever. We don't turn to that to teach us life skills. We don't ask the Fast and the Furious to teach kids driver's ed, right? It's a really common example that we love to give in porn, but it's true. Like, we don't place those demands on any other form of media, but somehow with porn, we expect it to be instructional. And that's not the point of most porn. There certainly is some porn that exists to teach people about sex, and I think it does a really good job. But when it comes down to it, this is a problem that society's created, and it's a problem that society's going to have to come up with a solution to. I didn't have an adult that I spoke to. There wasn't really a grown-up. It was just my friends. That was sort of where I got a little bit more of my sexual understanding. Like, I would talk to my friends about sex because they'd already had sex and they were my age, and I trusted them. And so that's where I got, I would say, most of my actual information. They were not very reliable people either. I mean, they were teenagers.
Ideally, it would always help if you had someone older who would give you the information and that you could actually bounce things off of. Like, I feel weird because I get boners in PE and I'm trying to figure out what to do with my shorts, but my shorts make them feel good because they're made out of that basketball material, and so I don't know what to do. Are the girls gonna laugh at me? Is my dick too small? You ask him. Yeah. Or for girls, you ask her. So.
I'd have to say the biggest downside to young people using porn to learn things would probably be the fact that they just don't learn about the personal side of it. I feel like porn is very separate with emotions. It's not as emotional, it's not as much about love. It's more about just fucking, having fun, you know? I feel like it could fuck you over relationship-wise in your personal life if you just expect it to be an in and out type of deal instead of having the love and the passion and the feelings behind it. And a lot of the times in porn, it's all about the lust and about random hookups. It's not about creating an actual bond and exploring each other sexually on a romantic or a sensual level.
It depends on how you look at it. I would say it's not fully instructional, but I would say that it can teach people a lot of things.
There's very few sites or very few places you would want to go into porn and think that's reality. That's what you get most time from porn, at least the way looking from me young before I got into it, would look at this and be like, okay, I need to go as fast as possible and as hard as possible because that's what makes girls come. It's not.
People are growing up not knowing themselves, finding themselves in porn because that's the only area they see a transgender person, or that's the only area they see gender fluid people having sex. Like, if they feel gender fluid, there's unique porn and stuff out there like that, but there's no like regular TV shows or images where people are interacting, going to coffee together, being like, hey, what's up? Calling each other they, so they understand this is regular. behavior. That's part of bad education too.
Maybe they're never gonna think about Mark Twain again, but they're definitely going to live in their bodies and be just bombarded by sexual imagery for the rest of their lives. They're almost certainly gonna have sex a lot more than they're gonna think about Mark Twain going forward in their lives. There's just it's so much more impactful. It's such a big part of their identity that to just gloss over it and pretend it doesn't exist, it's harmful to kids, and it's doing them a huge disservice.
Nina Hartley is a legendary adult film star who has been imbuing her films with education since the start of her career in the 1980s. Her unique perspective and her desire to educate solidified her as an individual with a powerful voice. She is also an author and an activist, and she has an honorary doctorate from the Institute for Advanced Study of Human Sexuality in San Francisco. I am fortunate to have been able to receive her feedback on sex and sex ed, and to get her take on why both subjects scare people so gosh darn much.
It's like putting spinach in your brownies. I was always putting sex education in my movies. I love the idea of rebranding sex ed as human relations, because sex ed makes it all about genitals, and genitals are the least of it, they're the last of it. All the things we can do in the bedroom are a deck of 52 cards. Let's take out the two most dangerous, penis in a vagina and penis in an anus, and put those cards over here. Now we have 50 cards of things we can do that don't result in death and babies and stressing you out for finals. Can we find a way to express our sexuality in a way that does not also increase stress, fear, worry, and all the things? There is first the social intercourse, the FaceTime, the human training. How do I state my needs? How can I hear your needs without being upset? How can I say, the best answer when someone says no thank you is, thank you for taking care of yourself. That's the answer. No is a complete sentence, and it should not have to have any pushback from that. As we're becoming sexually competent people, we are going to make mistakes. We're gonna get our feelings hurt. We're gonna be absolutely humiliated and mortified and wanted to die for whatever reason. And know that that's part of becoming a sexually literate person. If you want to remain technical virgins until you're married, fine. But then in the meantime, okay, we're gonna save the penis and the vagina thing for our special day, but what can we do before then that helps us learn to be with each other and learn to what each other's like, and are there books we can look at together? Are there other ways that we can develop being intimate with each other without putting a penis in a vagina, which if you want to say that's special, okay. But to go from nothing, okay, wedding night, it's a recipe for disaster. And if you talk to a lot of people who are raised in very conservative religious homes, their wedding nights were horrible. The most detrimental thing about continuing on the path now in regards to sex education is that it's not working. It is not reducing violence. It is not reducing unintended pregnancies. It is not reducing STIs. It is not reducing trauma. It's not reducing ignorance. It's not reducing isolation. It's not reducing alienation. It's not reducing self-loathing. The mind-body split goes back thousands of years. The idea that the spirit is somehow clean and holy and the body is base. But even though I'm not Christian, I have a friend who is, and she says, you know, God can make people. God can make anybody he wants. God can make it come out of your ear. God can make it come out of your nose. God chose a woman's vagina to introduce his son to the world. Why do we hate that body part so much?
One of the really important pieces of the puzzle to me in highlighting all of the reasons why we have to make sex ed more comprehensive is talking to people who are already doing that with the power that they have. So I'm gonna go talk to a woman named Lynda Nguyen, who in the wake of the Me Too movement founded an organization called the Magic of Song, which exists to create curriculum for young people to understand their bodies, to understand desire, to understand the concept of boundaries and consent. And she's rolling it out in schools right now. I am really eager to talk to Lynda as a former educator myself about what it's like on the front lines, educating kids in a complete way. I was able to catch up with her. She's in town in LA for a few days. We're gonna go talk to her now. Let's see what she has to teach us.
I've been doing this work with training women and training leaders for a long time to really come into terms with their own body, with their own women's empowerment, their sexuality and everything too, because I didn't come into my own sexual empowerment until my 30s. And it took me a long time because I never had the adequate education. So there was a lot of insecurity, a lot of fear, and a lot of like not knowing if this body was even mine. So, you know, do I owe you something for that gift that you gave me or that lunch that you brought me? And so just kind of like those kinds of like really limited beliefs hindered me from really being in my own body, really owning my sexuality and everything too. And with a lot of the Me Too movement, I realized that I've been doing this work all along, but I've been working with a lot of 40s and 50-year-old women. So the root of it is to really help educate the youngins. And so we stepped into the high schools and we decided to create a curriculum that is not only comprehensive, medically accurate, but also restorative, so that we're not judging or shaming, but we're just delivering this education in a very unbiased, very clear, and like just fact of the matter kind of way. Luckily in our generation, moving forward, I feel like now the teachers are speaking up. They're saying like, no, you go out there and you tell the boys or you tell each other that that's not acceptable and that you can say no. And that even if they gave you a gift or they bought you lunch or they went on a date, you know, you don't have to have sex. You don't have to go where you don't want to go. And even if you kissed him, you still can step away and go, thank you so much, I'll see you tomorrow. The 8 women that I worked with, they happen to be in my larger community. And the majority of them are sex educators, yogis, counselors, coaches, professional coaches. And one of my founding members, she is a principal. In 5 years, I want to see our core curriculum, the 2 at least, the comprehensive sex ed, medically accurate empowerment training, to be online, digitally distributed nationwide, globally if possible, and also the other core curriculum too, which is the sexual harassment communications. I want to make sure that we're funded and we're supported in a way that can sustain us as leaders too, and to bring this and to pitch it to the districts, to pitch it to the different communities and networks and stuff so that we can just give this away for free if we can. That's the whole point of the nonprofit, is that help us now so that eventually we can give this away to the students and to the survivors who might need to know that they're not alone. What are we gonna do now? Instead of just crying online, we gotta go out there and make something happen. I cannot see a downside of educating people to understand their body. I see a downside of educating them that it's wrong to talk about their body. We've seen it, we've witnessed it, I've experienced it personally. So this education will empower everybody. And we'll heal ourselves, we'll heal our grandparents, we'll heal our generations next and stuff, and just we need to start healing ourselves, both the men and the women. And we need to have this conversation in a very fact of the matter, very transparent, very authentic way, where actually I don't even know what I'm doing, but I'm confused, and this is what I'm feeling in my body, so let's talk about it.
What would happen if the male has a narrow urethra and he still tries to give birth? And then we're on to, if a man fucks with a cow, does the cow scream if she's a virgin? Period. Do you like being punished? Do you like being punished is what this question says.
Whoa.
If the vagina bleeds, can you die? Yes. Yes, you can. What does tossing salad mean? Correct use of quotations should be mentioned. Why don't boys get monthly visits like periods? Same question. Also on the back it says, can I fuck you hardcore?